In sharp contrast to its foreign policy of non-interference, China, especially under Xi Jinping's leadership, has been making global headlines for its role in foreign interference, precisely in election meddling. The United States has recently accused the Asia giant of attempting to influence and interfere in the upcoming US election. Canada, too, in its recent Security Intelligence Service report, alleged of Chinese attempts at clandestinely and deceptively influence the last two Canadian federal elections of 2019 and 2021. Employing sophisticated tools, Beijing has been actively exerting political influence in other countries. The aim is simple: to ensure that the outcome is favorable to the Chinese establishment and in line with upholding Chinese interests. The widespread influence operation Beijing carries out globally, however, is consistently posing a threat to sovereignty and national interest of other countries. This is especially true for neighboring countries that are engaged in hostile relations with Beijing due to the latter's ambitious territorial expansionist ambitions. As this year is witnessing a record number of elections in 50 countries, China's role in election meddling noted in the past couple of years requires a relook. China's role in election meddling is rooted in its influence operation in other countries. Disinformation campaign, a major component of Beijing's I.O., aims at undermining the power holders of other countries through tactics that would make them look weak and vulnerable. Chinese methods in I.O., however, go beyond social media in foreign countries, whereby its overt approach also includes local and independent media, personalities, political parties, business people, and like. The preference for any particular candidate by China is not expressed through direct diplomatic statements, rather through state-linked media and the United Front Work Department, meant for overseas influence. The end goal is whichever candidate wins the election, they should implement pro-China policies. Spamouflage Dragon, also known as Dragon Bridge, a major Chinese propaganda network, has been actively engaged in Chinese disinformation campaign since 2017-18. The extent of its reach can be deciphered from the fact that nearly 9,000 Facebook and Instagram accounts linked to this network was closed down by Meta in August 2023, after finding Spamouflage's covert I.O. over 50 platforms targeting countries like UK, US, and Australia. Disinformation campaign, employed before elections, therefore, strives at influencing the outcome of election result by lowering voter confidence towards candidates that Beijing does not support. In November last year, about 4,800 fake Chinese linked accounts were closed down that targeted the US. These accounts, impersonating as Americans, intended to polarize public opinion via its partisan political content on the upcoming presidential election. In Australia, Chinese disinformation campaign during 2022 federal election aimed to influence pro-Beijing public opinion. Besides campaigns on social media, the efforts at foreign interference in election meddling expanded through the use of various tools, such as major Chinese language press, influencing specific politicians, economic coercion. In the 2022 presidential election in Philippines, Beijing was seen to adopt a long-term approach of developing relations with influential politicians. Moreover, through developing relations with Filipino media and the business community, China indicated its preference for Marcos' candidacy in the 2022 election. Marcos was casted as a pragmatic leader that would solve the South China Sea crisis with China, while his opponent was propagated as Washington's puppet. Thus, Chinese I.O. in Manila's election was also to influence voter behavior to choose a candidate that will not be so tilted to the US. A significant change in disinformation tactics to influence election is the Chinese use of generative artificial intelligence, AI, such as generative anchors and news channels. The use of this sophisticated tool targets parties and politicians or election candidates that are known to be critical of China or perceived to be at odds with Chinese interests. The use of generative AI to influence foreign election was first witnessed in the January Taiwan presidential election. For China, the aims of foreign interference include undermining Taiwan's democratic system, push for pro-unification narrative, and weaken Taiwan's cordial relationship with the US. According to Taiwan's Supreme Prosecutor's Office, this election had about 102 cases of foreign interference, many of them related to China. Taiwan's Democratic People's Party, DPP, known to hold a pro-independence and now status quo political stand, has been a major target of China's disinformation campaign. In power since 2016, the DPP is regularly criticized by Chinese-linked and some funded local and social media as belligerent party, while its prominent leaders face smear campaigns. Backing Huo Yui of Kuomintang Party, KMT, the election was propagated by China as a choice of peace over war, indicating voting for DPP would mean voting for war with China. Moreover, through economic coercion, military intimidation, and co-opting local officials, Beijing's election meddling continued. This was witnessed even during election tally, as rumors of election fraud surfaced to undermine the democratic process. Taiwan's election is a notable example of the multifaceted influence tactics China has been lately employing to meddle with elections of foreign countries. Microsoft recently warned that China would make use of generative AI to influence elections in South Korea, India, and the US, all facing elections this year. Notwithstanding the widespread measures undertaken for asserting political influence in foreign countries, as witnessed in the pattern of interference in elections, China's election meddling tactics proved to be largely ineffective. The election outcome did not cater to Beijing's goal of influencing pro-China public opinion in these countries. In fact, the overt approach turned public opinion otherwise, as seen in case of Taiwan. Chinese-linked media, despite its seemingly global presence, failed to exert any global influence and are now mostly banned in liberal democratic countries. Reports on China's use of disinformation campaign tactics, retrieving private data, and its impact on national security threat being a major reason behind these bans. Even in cases where China's preferred candidate was elected, like in case of Philippines, the relations proved to be far from cordial, as can be seen in the latest heightened tensions in the South China Sea dispute. Neither did it manage to stop Manila's pro-US tilt. However, Chinese efforts in election meddling in foreign countries continue through newer innovative tactics and higher risks of global security threat. This is a reflection of China's desperation to be perceived as a global power. What remains to be seen is whether China's election meddling see any success this year. So this is it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. Until next time, take care.